is Liezl and I have a little boy by the name of Alex. Alex is about 22 months old right now, and we decided to start with solids when he was approximately 6 months old. Today's video is going to be talking you through the reasons why we decided on introducing the solids the way that we did rather than other ways. In preparation of this, we had also recorded an expert chat with Sister Samantha Crompton, and the link for that will be linked both above as well as in the description below should you want to actually have some expert advice on how to start solids with your baby. I am just a mom, and I did quite a bit of research and decided at the end of the day to go with a baby-led weaning approach rather than traditional weaning. The first reason for me was about the philosophy around baby-led weaning. So let's maybe get a quick start and overview as to what baby-led weaning is. Baby-led weaning waits specifically for readiness signs for your baby that they are ready to start with solid food. These readiness signs include things like being able to sit unassisted for a period of time, being able to grasp an object and take it to their mouth, which of course is crucial because you're not supposed to put anything inside baby's mouth. It is up to them to be able to take the food and bring it to their mouth themselves. One of the most telling signs as well is that they actually need to have lost their tongue thrust. So you would notice that sometimes when something gets put into baby's mouth when they are quite young, they will try and push it out of their mouth, something like that. I know that looked a bit horrible, but their mouth is just not ready to accept that as it. One of the first things that people also ask about baby-led weaning is, well, doesn't it increase the choking hazard that I'm exposing my child to? There hasn't been a hell of a lot of research done within baby-led weaning, but the most comprehensive study that was done is referred to as the Bliss study, and a link to that study will be linked in the description below. What they did find is that choking generally occurred more often when parents or caregivers intervened. And this is one of the things around baby-led weaning that is quite important to know, is the difference between gagging and choking. I would suggest looking into this quite carefully. Gagging is a really great way for babies to learn how to move food around in their mouth. Their gag reflex when they are younger are also way more forward in their mouth, which prevents choking. But when they gag and you intervene, you could very easily trigger a choking response. And therefore, it's really important to have a look at what the differences are so that you can allow baby to learn what it needs to do and how to manipulate the food in its mouth to maneuver it to a place where it is safe for them to be able to handle it. Baby-led weaning also looks at the baby eating whatever the rest of the family is eating. They see what's on your plate and they've got exactly the same thing on their plate. Through modeling behavior, they are able to then have a look to see how you are consuming the food and learning from that as well. Dinners or meals in general become more of a social affair rather than a baby sitting all by itself having spoonfuls of food shoveled into its mouth. And from that aspect, it also allows you to eat as a family and not just have one person having to continuously feed the baby, rather than being able to then also eat your own food. I will be preparing a video more around how I prepared food for Alex when we just started baby-led weaning. But really, one of the top reasons why I've decided to go with baby-led weaning was the convenience. I did not want to spend weekends preparing food specially for Alex, which then get frozen and taken out of the freezer. Instead, it just made much more sense for us to just take the food that is on our plate and share that with Alex as it is. That's the kind of stuff that he was interested in anyway, rather than actually eating something. If he's got something on his plate that we don't, he's generally not even that interested in eating that specific item. So it was way more convenient for us to just dish up whatever we had cooked for ourselves and give a little bit of that to Alex to try out. The whole idea about Alex starting solids also meant that we needed to look at what foods we were eating, and it was actually quite shocking how unhealthy we were eating. And now having to make sure that my child is being exposed to the different food groups and that he is getting enough fruit and vegetables on his plate really made us look at the choices that we were making. Are we having enough orange vegetables? Are we having enough green leafy vegetables? And all of those different items were being evaluated. And I wish I could say that it has really changed our behavior. We unfortunately still make quite a lot of unhealthy choices. But what we have also found is that a lot of those unhealthy choices are now being done when Alex is in bed. Don't tell him. But we will be eating more of the sugary treats, etc., when he is not around, to prevent him from necessarily being exposed to that much sugar. Because the food is presented in its natural state, there is none of this transition of a baby being able to, or a baby being exposed to something mushy and undescribable and unrecognizable, and then being presented with a stalk of broccoli and just having no idea what that is. With all the media out there at the moment, with children suffering from sensory issues, for me it was really important as well that Alex got that sensory experience. A piece of broccoli needs to be fluffy on the top. It needs to have a little stalk. He needs to be able to recognize food for what they are. And when he touches it or he puts it in his mouth and it has this different texture, that for me was really important. One of the things that baby-led weaning people kind of proclaim is that children are less fussy. To be honest, I think my child is just one of those kids that literally just will try anything. I'm not sure that that has got anything to do with the way I introduce solids. He is just naturally quite adventurous. But in another sense, I wasn't going to take a chance of him becoming super fussy about things when he could potentially be exposed to things in a different way. We also focused on the 100 foods before one. So I really went out my way to try and expose him to as many things as possible and to all the different foods that I could lay my hands on. We ended up stopping counting, around about when he was 11 months, because by that time we had already hit the 100 mark. But we are still finding foods which we can introduce to him, and he generally will actually take the food and try it. There is also this idea that you can't say, oh, my child doesn't like it because they've tried it once and they spat it out. The idea is to keep introducing foods continuously until they maybe after 10 or 20 times are rejecting this food, and then probably it would be safe to say, okay, the child doesn't really like it. But when they are young, like Alex was when we started introducing a number of foods, they are way more open to the different tastes and textures, and they don't have this mental kind of block against certain foods as well. Because you never put anything into their mouth themselves, they have the choice of what they eat and how much of that they eat. So typically you would present a few options to baby. They will be able to pick it up, put it in their mouth, spit it out, as the case might be. When they're very young, they ingest very little food. Which in another sense is also great, because for me that stands to reason that their digestive systems are very slowly being introduced to food. It isn't a question about that they've got this, entire teaspoon or two that their digestive system now need to try and figure out what to do. Often they just suck on the food, so it's just the juices that are actually being ingested for the first couple of tries that they have. So from that perspective, I think it really helps their gut just to get regulated and used to the idea of having to deal with this new thing that it's having to deal with as well. In the end, for me, it's really great that Alex is independent in terms of the choices he makes around food. We started introducing utensils really early on. I preloaded spoons for him and allowed him to take the spoon up to his mouth. All of this developed very slowly, and we had no real expectation as to at what point he's going to be using utensils. But at 22 months old, he is very proficient with a spoon. He is also very dexterous with the fork and being able to spear items with it. And we've recently introduced a knife for him to start spreading. He doesn't quite have the coordination yet to use the knife and the fork together to cut food. But he has observed us doing that, so I'm sure he will be learning how to do that soon as well. We've also introduced water from the very first get-go. So as soon as he started with solids, one of the first things I did was introduce water. We decided to go with an open cup for various reasons. One being that I am not a big fan of sippy cups. From the research that I've done, it impedes speech, and it could actually, also impact on teething. So I was quite careful about choosing an open cup. I also introduced, quite controversially, glass. It was a real glass. I bought about 5 of these little glasses, and I will link below the place where I bought these little glasses. I just put a tiny bit of water in it at first. And learning to drink from a cup is a whole different video, so I will certainly be spending some time on one of the coming videos to actually show you exactly what I did to introduce these foods. So those were the top reasons why I decided to go with my baby-led weaning approach rather than on the traditional weaning. I hope you find this helpful. Please keep an eye out on this channel, as I will be posting quite a number of videos regarding baby-led weaning and our approach to it over the coming weeks. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and we are hoping to see you next week with more information.